Building trust in the voter registration process, the factors that may build or destroy it, the role of stakeholders in building this trust, and strategies that are required to enhance trust in the voter registration process. Okay, what's the importance of building this trust? The first one is that it helps to minimize conflicts, and it results into cooperation among stakeholders. It eases the registration process, increases accuracy of the voter registration through participation of various stakeholders, allows transparency and promotes democratic values and principles, and it increases credibility of registration process. As you may realize, this paper is too conceptual, so probably I'll just present the principles. So what are the important factors that are required in building trust? You realize that all these principles are the same, regardless of what aspect you are tackling. They are the same principles that might guide us in all aspects of the voter registration process. And the first one is transparency. So there has to be clear understanding of all proceedings by all stakeholders. There have to be accessibility to voter registration information by all stakeholders, political parties, donors, local and international observers. There has to be a right and ability to verify the accuracy of the voter registration process, and stakeholders must have the ability to make suggestions and to contribute to corrective action where they have seen errors. So the second one is effective mechanisms to register, address, and resolve in a timely manner all challenges, complaints, and conflicts that arise at various stages of the registration process. I think one of the major issues with the voter registration, and in fact the entire electoral process, is the failure to adequately and timely address conflicts. There could be misunderstanding, there could be omissions, there could be errors. So people must be sure that if they encounter such problems, their problems will actually be addressed, and more importantly, efficiently and in a timely manner. Thirdly, there has to be observance of all international conventions and practices that protect human rights, and of course I will not go in detail. There has to be observance of registration laws, regulations, and procedures. You all know quite often we experience when registration officials actually don't observe the rules. They allow one person to register out of time, and they refuse another one to do so. So there has to be avoidance of all forms of discrimination, and there has to be inclusive of all stakeholders, regardless of race, religion, gender, physical, economic, social, or political ability. Observation, monitoring, and evaluation by observers. Not only observers, but also by election management bodies, political party representatives, and other stakeholders. What usually happens is that as election administrators, we leave all the observation to international and national observers. But if election administrators were also involved in this observation, I'm sure I would be able to take a lot of corrective measures before they get out of the way. The next one is effective civic and voter education to ensure stakeholders understand the process. There is also need for efficient and effective training of registration staff for them to adequately understand their rights and responsibilities and to conduct free, fair, accurate recording and processing of voter information according to the laws, regulations of registration. Accessibility to the voter registration services is very important. Through efficient and equitable supply of enough essential registration materials, reasonable travel distances to registration, reasonable registration period and time for registration, and adequate security, impartiality, and independence of the electoral management bodies. That's a very obvious experience, and you all appreciate its importance. And commitment not only by election management bodies, but by governments, political parties, civil society organizations, and the general public to respect established laws and provide fair and level playground. We always blame government or the ruling party for not creating level playground. But I think the responsibility falls on all stakeholders. Many often it's the electorate, the voters themselves, and the candidates who intimidate opponents. And that constitutes the unlevel playground. So it's the responsibility of everybody. And of course, there has to be accuracy of voter particulars. This is very, very important. Once people don't find their names correct, they don't find their names in the polling stations where they apply to be registered, they completely lose the trust in the registration system. And the next time they don't want to bother to go back and update their particulars because they don't have the trust that the particulars will actually be put in place. Many more factors. Timely implementation of the entire registration process. That should include timely decision-making, institution of enabling laws, provision of funds, supply of registration materials, staff recruitment, training, payment of salaries, field work, data processing, all those processes of the stakeholders. When we normally talk of stakeholders, we normally think of the donors and the election management bodies and the political parties. But in addition to that, we have the electorate themselves. I believe that the voters are the main stakeholders because their interests have to be ensured, and we have to ensure that they actually, the process is fair and free, because they're the main losers. They're mainly the ones who pay the taxes. They suffer from political mismanagement and all that. So, and there are also special interest groups like women, the youth. All those need stakeholders whose trust have to be built, because it's one system, and any component that falls out of it, as you all remember in physics, the whole system tends to collapse if there is a component that's not available or that's not in place. So all stakeholders have to ensure that a successful voter registration process takes place. Governments and donors, for example, must provide timely funding. Electoral staff are required to ensure registration is well planned and conducted. Legislators must ensure enabling laws are in place and in a timely manner. The judiciary and other related authorities must ensure timely and fair adjudication of complaints and challenges, and voters must take the responsibility to apply for registration and to avoid all illegal practices. They are the ones who register more than once. They are the ones who vote more than once. They are the ones who tear posters and all that. And all of them have the responsibility to lobby and or to act as pressure groups to positively influence electoral reforms. There has to be political will and behavior. This we have seen where politicians have actually tended to influence the electoral process. And there has to be national security. And all the above may build or erode the confidence and the trust of stakeholders in the registration process.